When you go on the URA website, this is how it looks like. Beautiful website with a beautiful outlay there. So you log into www.ura.go.ug. Now, when you get there, you come to e-services. Now, when you are on e-services, we have a host of things that are very important for you. But the most important one for this particular interaction is register for taxes. Now, under register for taxes, you realize, for those of you who have been using this portal before, you realize that there's an addition under register for taxes, and the addition there is TIN registration. That is the addition that is available. So usually what happens is that you click on the TIN registration. Now when you click on TIN registration, it gives you a number of things that I feel I should go through for you to appreciate. Every taxpayer comes and they want a TIN, but they forget that they have rights and they have obligations. In fact, sometimes most taxpayers know their rights, but they forget their obligations. And so it is easier for them to front their rights while trying to sit on their obligations. So these are some of the rights. When you go on our new TIN application form, the rights are clearly stipulated there. One of them is right to equity and fair treatment before the law. Everybody has to be treated equally when we are applying our tax laws on the person. Number 2, tax laws and procedures shall be applied consistently to you. So if a law is saying that if, for example, you fail to file your return by the due date, you'll be penalized 200,000. That is the law that will be applied to everybody, irrespective of who you are. The other thing is that all tax matters will be handled impartially. Impartiality is something that we front at URA. You and your agents shall be presumed honest until proven guilty, until proven otherwise. The principle of you are innocent until proven guilty applies in this particular matter. Your tax matters shall be kept a secret. At URA, one of the things that we front so much is confidentiality. Whatever information you give us, we keep it confidential. That is one of the things that we do. You'll be given, you have a right to clear, precise, and timely information. And that is why usually what happens is that whenever we have our tax amendments approved from Parliament and assented to by the President, we share them on our portal because we want you to be able to have this information, because information is power. When you have the information, then you are able to also fulfill your tax obligations. The other is that you'll always receive courteous and professional services. Customer is king, and so we shall try as much as we can to treat you like a king when you come, or like a queen when you come to URA for our services. The other is that you receive timely and clear responses to your inquiry. So each time you call our contact center, which is now revamped, you will receive clear responses to the issues that you raise, because we have a team of people who are at the contact center, professional enough and competent enough to respond to the queries that you raise. But also when you write a letter to URA requesting for certain clarities, we will always write back to you in a timely manner. Of course, you'll also be given decisions taken. For example, when you object to an assessment or to a certain penalty, when a decision is taken, then you will be provided that decision in a written format. Of course, you also have a right to be sensitized on tax obligation, and that's why we organize these webinars that we always have here. We had one for customs yesterday. Today we have one for domestic taxes. So we are always trying as much as we can to reach out to our people in the best way possible. You shall be facilitated to exercise your rights, both within the organization and also outside the organization. You shall be given prior notice whenever your premises are to be subjected to routine inspection, or if an audit is to be conducted. We always notify you and say, we are coming to audit you on such and such a day. Organize your books. We don't just come for the sake of coming. We always notify you that we are coming. Your tax account shall be promptly updated for the tax payment. So each time you make a payment, we update your tax balances, your tax ledgers. The other is that we shall maintain an updated database of your tax records. That is one other thing that we promise to do. And of course, where there is a tax refund, we are promising you that we shall process your refunds in time. We'll process it based on the law. Your tax returns and entries and other documents related to your tax affairs shall be processed. So those are your rights. Those are your rights. So it's very important that before you even apply for a TIN, you begin to appreciate your rights, you begin to appreciate your obligations. So our dear viewers, it is your right to get a TIN, especially when you qualify to get one. But even as you apply for the TIN, you must also remember that you have some obligations that are expected of you. Like I said earlier, it is easier for you to front your rights while forgetting your obligations. So what our new TIN application process is doing, or our new web-based application form is doing, is to inform you that much as you have your rights as clearly stipulated in the first submissions that I did, you also have obligations. And one of the obligations you have is to voluntarily register for taxes with URA. Some of you are running businesses, you have rentals, you are making money from interest and dividends, but you are not registered for TIN. So please register for taxes with URA. You must file correct returns. Do not just sit down and cook accounts and then enter what you feel you must enter. Either way, we will always get you. You have to pay the correct tax. Don't declare 100 million, then only pay 50 million. You must pay the correct tax. You must be honest while dealing with URA. Don't be dishonest. Be as honest as possible, because one of the things that we front as URA is integrity. Integrity is very important. The other issue is that you must always quote your TIN or tax identification number for all dealings with URA. Do not indulge in any form of tax evasion or other illegal practices. When you are importing or exporting cargo, employ services of a licensed customs agent. For customs, it's a bit unique because you have to employ a customs agent to be able to clear your goods that you're bringing into the country or that you are exporting. You must also be able to comply with all your tax obligations. So these are some of the obligations of our tax payers. Now, having said that, I want to introduce a colleague who has come in, and maybe, yes, you're most welcome, Hafsa.
Thank you. Good morning, Uganda. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Hafsa Seguya, and thank you for logging in. We are here this morning to see that we can discuss the web-based registration form. Yes, it's also 14, but it's a little improved. There is a reason why we keep on improving our processes. We do process re-engineering to see that we give you services that are efficient, services that are consistent, to see that we can match the speed of the businesses that we have. So once again, we are here with my colleague Arthur to see that we can introduce to you, we can discuss. For those who didn't know, we have a web-based application form for registration that is getting a TIN. Yes, that can happen. And it's for individuals and for non-individuals. If a company needs a TIN and the directors already have a TIN, still you can use the web-based application form. But it doesn't work for group registration. Reason group registration implies that all of you do not have TINs, the company and the directors that are attached to it, so we did not design it for that purpose for the time being. You can still continue using the group registration template, but for an individual who needs a TIN, a company that needs a TIN, where the directors already have a TIN, this is the way to go. This is the form to use. Still on our web portal, you can locate it there, www.ura.go.ug. You just go onto the portal page, click on services. Definitely on your left-hand side, there are fields that will come there. Then you'll just go and click on TIN registration, then start the process. It's about 5 minutes application form. It's easy to fill, it's flexible, and if you have a NIN, things are way better because we are interlinked with NIRA and Uganda Registration Services Bureau. With NIRA, it is basically to authenticate the NIN you've given us and to make life easier for you, because after authenticating it, it will auto-populate the details, your personal details that you registered with NIRA, so that we can have a uniform database. With Uganda Registration Services Bureau, in the event that you registered a business, you just put the business name there, it will auto-populate the details. So that is how we do business, because we interlink our systems so that we can create services that are efficient to you. We can ensure that we serve you in the right way, because if we do not improve our service delivery, automatically even the revenue may not come in the manner that we expect. We all know we have a 22.4 trillion to collect this year. I mean, this is a COVID pandemic, but we still have to ensure that it comes in and everything goes right or wrong at the registration stage. Once registration is not done well, we'll either get a value client or won't get a value client. Once we don't get the right details, then it will not help us in what taxes we should register for a particular client. So at registration, when everything is well, then we'll have a healthy register that will help us make projections in our collections, that will help us collect the right taxes, that will help us do the right estimates, that do the right assessments that may be required at that particular time. So everything starts with the entry, and the entry in URA is the registration. When I'm talking about taxes, registration has to perfectly be done, and we all know that some of you who are already aware, we have the mobile bus that will start moving sooner or later. We are going to plan how it's going to move, and it will be still helping us to create services nearer to our people, most especially outside Kampala, in those small towns probably where we may not be able to reach, or it's difficult for our clients to reach us in the different stations that we operate. The bus will be coming in. Our bus is to Jenge, Uganda. That means that we have one Uganda, all of us. That is the bus that will be moving. It's still for registration. It will be for compliance issues in case you need to, mending your profile, making your profile clean, and ultimately tax education. Because there is nothing we do without educating you. Things keep on moving, keep on changing day by day. We have amendments. We change in some templates over the portal. We change the way we do business, and we need to move with you, because when we don't move with you, we will not be able to have the objective met of maximizing revenue. because our mission is mobilizing revenue in a transparent and efficient manner. How will we mobilize this revenue when we do not make our register bigger? We do not expand the tax base. So in the event that our tax base is expanded, then our vision will be basically, then our mission will be basically met. Because ultimately where we want to be as an institution is having a transformational service. That is why we keep doing these business re-engineering processes, improving on our services, because we need our service to be tagged to the way business is done. It needs to move with the trends of business, how it's done, so that we can be able to offer that transformational service that will lead our country to economic independence. So whatever we do is well aligned in our vision, in our mission, and basically our core values. Because without the professionalism, then whatever we do here as in tax education, it may not be felt, it won't come out the way you need, but still integrity has to be underneath whatever we do. And if in the event that we're executing our duties, we'll have to have the will of the country. That is a patriotism. All the three put together, the 22.4 trillion will be met for this financial year. We have ahead of us all that, and definitely tax education has to come up front and make sure that the information is readily available, the information is broken down, the information is clear to our clients so that they can be able to meet the obligations that Arthur has been dissecting at the beginning. Then we can move straight to the web-based registration form.
Okay. Thank you, Hafsa, for that elaborate introduction. Now, before we even do the practical bit of this, have the requirements for the application changed? Because initially, the old application form, one needed to attach their national ID, one needed to attach their business registration certificate. Have there been any changes in that regard, or we still maintain them?
The changes that we have when we are looking at the web-based registration form, we definitely need those records depending on what your source of income is. But the modification that has been done is maybe you do not need to bring it physically. Okay. There is a provision where you can attach, and you can attach if it's an employment ID, if it's an appointment letter, a contract, you can attach it there. What doesn't need attaching, I think, could be basically the NIN, because since we share the database with NERA, then you just need to put your NIN, then it will auto-populate. But the rest, if you choose to use the other identifications, then definitely you will need to attach for us, so that as you attach, scan and attach, then we will, the approving authority, the person going to approve the application, has to be able to open what you have attached and see whether actually it makes sense according to the application you have pushed in, so that the approval can be made.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, maybe before we even go into the practical bit of this,
yes,
maybe you can throw light on some of the advantages that are coming with this new application form.
This new application form, definitely it's simpler because it's just a web-based form. Yes. Compared to what we had was the Excel. It needed to do a lot to enable the microns, to do all that, and it was a little difficult for our clients, some of them, probably to push in an application up to the end.
Yes.
And maybe the other advantage probably we have, as you select a nature, as you select a source of income, say you have selected income from rented property, it only gives you the ISICs that are related to that particular source of income. Yet in the old one, you needed to search for ISICs. We gave you a full list whereby at times you could get lost. But here we have reduced the search for you so that we give you what is seemingly related to the source of income that you have selected, for you to at least select amongst the few that we have given you. And secondly, you don't need to attach. Then thirdly, you don't need to come back and get a printout of your TIN certificate. Because what we've done, after the approval is done, it has passed the test. in what we send you in the notification, we send you a PDF that you can open from your end and print from your end. That means we have reduced on the travels you need to make to Uganda Revenue Authority and keep coming back and forth. And secondly, when your application is rejected, you can reapply.
Yes.
Because when we started, initially when we had just started, it wasn't accepting for a reapplication, but at least we've unlocked that field whereby you can reapply like any other application. When it's not made good, you're given a chance to come back and make it good, then the approval can be made.
Okay. So we can get into the form now.
Yes, we can get into the form because we will be seeing step by step.
Okay.
That will cause part of our discussion today, and maybe those that will be coming in the course of the discussion.
Okay, so like we had already indicated, you go to the URA website.
Yes.
When you're on the URA website, this is how it looks like. Sorry. That's how our website looks like. So when you get here, Hafsa mentioned it earlier, you go to e-services. When you click on e-services, we have added another option there of TIN registration. So you click on that, and then you have this. This is what I was going through earlier. Taxpayer rights are there. Your obligations are here. What is required of you when you are applying as an individual? Here we are. For citizens, Hafsa said it, a national ID is needed. For non-citizens, any valid two of the following: the passport, the driving license, the NSSF, the work permit, the visa, and the refugee ID. We even have a requirement for an appointment letter if you are an employee, for example. A valid email address, and of course, a valid mobile number.
Maybe, Arthur, before you move away from there,
yes,
the reason why we have an appointment letter, what our clients have been experiencing before,
yes,
is we assume somebody who has come to apply for a TIN is already on a payroll somewhere. And we expect that person to be on the pay-as-you-earn return.
Yes.
So as we check, as the approving officer checks on the pay-as-you-earn return, the most recent return, and does not see, say, Arthur there, the applicant, they will reject. Not knowing that these employers have different conditions. When I employ you, what I can first give you is that appointment letter. And I tell you, go and get a TIN.
True.
If you don't have a TIN, I am not giving you my first salary.
Yes.
The TIN is a requirement. So I think we should we should appreciate that we are providing for everybody. Because you may tell a client, bring the employment ID. There's no way I can get an employment ID when I am not yet even on any payroll.
True.
It can't happen. It's a step-by-step process.
Yes.
That is why the appointment letter is there.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's very important for our approving authority also to appreciate this.
Yes.
Okay. So a valid email address is key because at URA, most of our communication is through email.
And secondly, to our clients, when you're applying, we just request you to use your email. Please don't use an email for your wife, for your husband, for your accountant, for your lawyer, because the problem is when you use an email that is not yours, you have cut off communication from Uganda Revenue Authority.
True.
That means you can't hear from us. And it's even more dangerous when it comes to an application like a motor vehicle application.
Yes.
That means the person who has the email can easily go and change your password, can put in an application, say, for change of ownership for your vehicle. Because it could even be your husband or your wife, people who are just near you. Once you use their emails, they can take advantage of it. And by the time you discover, by the time you come to us, everything has already been done. Because most of our services are at least 95%
are actually
exactly. So by the time you discover, because this person will have the leeway to even reset the password.
True.
Will have the leeway to put in an application. And when we respond, the email will respond to his son who opens it. So that means you have detached yourself from the institution.
URA.
Yet the tin is yours. So for email, make sure the email you put should be yours. If you don't have an email, you just go to an internet cafe. It's very easy now
to open up an
because
email.
we some of us are at home, you have kids. Use these kids. They are tech savvy. They can help you open an email within seconds. They're at home. They've been at home for long. This is what they are doing. They are always on phones. Yes. Looking for everything that they need or they don't need. Please ensure that the email is yours. Then you can continue with the application.
Okay. Same as, I think, mobile phone number.
Exactly.
Sometimes you put a phone number for your friend, and each time we see an activity in your account, we call and it's the friend picking.
Exactly.
So it becomes hard for us to inform you that there are some challenges around your account. Then for individuals, again, very important to note, for a company, we normally insist on a company Form 20.
Yes.
For resident companies.
Yes.
And then a company Form 24 for non-resident companies, and of course a certificate of incorporation.
Because the certificate of incorporation shows when this company was incorporated.
Yes.
And a company is incorporated once in its lifetime. Say if it's incorporated in maybe Kenya and you come to Uganda, you want to register. When you come to Uganda, we do not incorporate it again. We just give you a certificate of registration because we are registering it in Uganda.
Yes.
And maybe to emphasize on company Form 20, it's initially what was company Form 7. So for those companies who registered with URSB way back, they could be having company Form 7. That could work because it has the same content with company Form 20.
Yes. Okay. Then for partnerships, we normally insist on a certificate of registration.
Which we know as a partnership deed.
Exactly.
Way back, but they do the same thing because it clearly specifies how many partners you are.
Yes.
And it will probably specify the sharing ratios, profit and loss. They are very important when it comes to taxes. We need to know who is going to pay what and which, because the document clearly shows how you're going to share the losses and profits. And when we come to taxes, we need to know what ratios probably to use, and they are governed by the partnership deed.
Okay. Then for government entities, we are saying a letter from an accounting officer.
Exactly.
Okay. For diplomatic or international organizations, if they have a letter from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a letter from the head of mission, then we're okay with that.
Normally, you can go back a bit. The accounting officers are the cows.
Yes.
We need to make it very clear. The chief accounting officer is a person who we normally call a cow. Exactly. That's the letter that has to come in from there.
Okay. And then we have the local authorities.
Yes.
The Act of Parliament.
Exactly.
So whenever a town council is created, we know it's created by an Act of Parliament, and so they have to present that. For an estate or a trust, we have a certificate of registration.
And we need to emphasize for the town councils now and under local government, because they push out some tenders.
Yes.
And we need to know who are they doing business with, because we need to know what exactly has transpired. And we have advanced a bit with the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution.
Yes.
Whatever is branded as government is mandated to register. Because when we don't register, we will not know who you're dealing with, and we are in a bid of using data. Because what has been happening, we haven't been sharing data a lot. So we miss out with some of these transactions, and basically we cannot know who paid you, which sub-county paid you, which MDA paid you, where did you supply. So the reason why we are going that way is we need them to come on board in registration, those who hadn't registered. And also with IFRIS, because the government is the biggest spender. It spends in terms of the suppliers that supply it here and there. So we basically need to track that.
Yes.
That will help us address the 22.4 trillion that is ahead of us this year. So we need to put an emphasis on it moving forward.
Okay. Then for NGOs, clubs, societies, associations, we need things like certificate of registration, an act of parliament or legislation, and of course we need also their constitutions.
Exactly. With NGO, we need to put an emphasis to some extent.
Yes.
An NGO initially in our thinking was an organization that does not do business. Not for profit making organization.
Yes.
But what happens these days, it's not automatic that when you're an NGO you do not register for taxes. We request you to register. Then if you fall amongst those that should be exempted, say from income tax, then you will apply for exemption as the procedure will be guided. But even though you're an NGO, we expect you to register for taxes, we expect you to have a TIN, and we expect you to file what pertains that business you're doing. Because what thinking most of the people have, that if I'm an NGO, I don't pay taxes.
Yes.
That is not the thinking. Because you'll find some NGOs, they have income that probably, say clubs, they don't have income that we can tax. Maybe they have subscriptions and all that for their clubs. But at times they are running restaurants that are open to the public.
True.
So when you run a restaurant automatically, and I come, and in most cases those clubs, you'll even find their prices being a little higher. The soda that you can get at 1,000, in a club it can be at 4,000.
True.
So how do you come and tell me you don't pay taxes,
exactly.
yet you're even running a restaurant that is way above the normal restaurant rates in items of commodities? So what I urge my listeners, the clients out there, if it's an NGO, go register it with the NGO board, get that certificate, come with a constitution, fill in a form. Then register for taxes, get a TIN. Start the journey of keeping your records and filing. Then at least make at least 2 years on the register, 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
Then come in and apply for an exemption. But if you register and come and apply for an exemption, what am I exempting yet you haven't given me a single return? What am I looking at? So we need to look at something that will create the basis of the exemption.
And some NGOs actually have rentals.
Exactly, because as I had initially said, people thought NGOs, when I'm an NGO, it's just a walk away.
Yes.
It isn't like that. Come and register like any other business. Get on the register, keep your records well, do what is expected of you in obligations, file your return. We are operating a self-assessment regime. Then along the way, after you want to register for about 2 to 3 years, then come and apply for an exemption, because we need to look at your accounts. What are we going to look at? Creating a basis of the exemption when there's nothing you've given us. So in that same spirit, that is what we expect NGOs to do.
Okay, so I believe that has been very clear. Those are the things we expect from you when you are applying for your TIN using the web-based application form. So usually after you have gone through this and you have appreciated what is expected of you, you go and say, click here to start your application. Let me, let me do this. So click here. It normally requests for your valid email address.
Yes.
And if you put an email address which has already been used, it won't allow.
Exactly. That means it doesn't. It looks at sharing emails. Do not use Hafsa's email because she already used it on her team. That means you are supposed to get yours And input it there.
Input it there.
Yes.
Then you have to choose the kind of application that you want. In this case, individual or non-individual. And maybe to stress what Hafsa said earlier, for non-individuals, if you want to do a group registration, you can't use this form to apply for a teen using the non-individual application form. So let me get just a minute. Okay, here we are. Let me go back to our website. Here we are. And then I click on e-services, teen registration. I assume I have read these and I've understood them. I come here and then I enter my email address. In this case, let's assume that I am an individual. Then I say proceed. When you say proceed, a unique code is sent to your email address.
That is the reason you should give us an email that is accessible to you. That is the same email that when you give it to us, it's open besides here. You just go and read the code and come and put it in. But just imagine you've given me an email. You need to call your sister who is somewhere in Bali. She's not near her phone. She has to go back in the evening. I mean, you cannot complete the application in real time.
Yes. So this is my email address. And I've already been given a unique code, and there it is. So I pick this unique code, and then I type it in here. Same principle even for non-individual. Same principle. Then I'll say proceed. When I say proceed, I am now in my application. And that is how it looks like. And I have to answer some few questions, not so many. I have to answer some very few questions. And here we are, they're asking you, are you a citizen of Uganda? So I am a citizen of Uganda. So I'll say yes. Important to note, if I leave it at no, it will, if you look at what it requires for a non-citizen here, it will just ask for the date of birth, the surname, and the other details. But for a citizen, if I say I'm a citizen of Uganda, it asks me if I have a national ID. So if I say I have a national ID, if I say yes, it becomes easier for me. I now type in the other information. Now, Hafsa, what we also need to stress to our viewers out there is if I don't have a national ID, it means I must scan my 2 IDs.
Exactly.
To be able to attach them on this application.
Yes.
If I've not scanned them, then I will not be able to have my application approved. Yes.
So that means when a client goes at the first page where we have the rights and obligation, then the requirements for an individual.
Yes.
They should read the attachments carefully.
That are required.
That range of identifications we give them. Then you check yourself and see what you have. In the event that you don't have a national ID, at least we have alternatives.
Yes.
But in the alternatives, they move to whatever you may choose, because we have a driver's license, we have an employment ID, we have NSSF card, we have a visa card, we have a passport. So at least if you choose two, then that means scan them, put them somewhere, either on your desktop or on the flash, so that when it comes to attaching them, it's easier.
You can easily attach them.
Exactly.
Okay. So we'll go back to our application here. Now, your date of birth, if I say yes, it asks me for my national ID number. So let's assume that it is Arthur Akol who is applying for a teen. Let me type in my national ID number. Now, after you've typed in your national ID number, you must enter in your date of birth. Why do you enter in your date of birth? we want to verify the date of birth that you're giving us, is it the one at NIRA? So not assuming, this when I was born. Now when I do that, the system will move, and you can see it has already picked my information. It has put my name there. I'll call Arthur. In the event that I'd put a wrong date of birth, no information would come.
So that means since we integrated with NIRA, this NIN and the date of birth
must
go, and they have to, it has to do a back-end check to ensure that actually what we have here is for the person with voter population.
So what you registered, what the date of birth you declared when you were registering for your national ID in your village or wherever you registered it from, must be the same date of birth you're going to enter in the application for 18 using this application form. Enter your marital status. We have options. There is divorced, married, separated, single, widow, widower. Choose whatever works for you. Yeah? Then, after you are done filling this, you are okay. The next page asks for your address and contacts. So you click on it. Here they are asking you, where do you stay? Currently, probably. So assuming I am staying in, say, Chaliwajala. I won't say Najiro Nansana. Those ones have their own issues that they are sorting. So, that is Wakiso District, Kira Municipality. That is Namugongo Division, Chaliwajala Ward. This may be Janda. So, when you're entering your phone number, you must also begin with 256.
In fact, we need to emphasize that. In the form we used to use, the Excel-based, you used to start with a plus. Here we don't need the plus, but we need the 256.
Exactly.
So when you're filling in that form, at least, you must have read what is on the opposite side so that you do something similar.
Now, also important to note in this part is that the email address is already auto-populated for you, so you don't have to type it in there again. How about the next page?
But the alternative contact there, if somebody has
an alternative
contact from probably what you used there,
you
could probably, if you have an Airtel line, you could feel free, AfriCell, feel free to put it there.
Exactly.
Provided it's registered in your names.
Yes. So birthplace is our next option. It asks you for your country of birth. In this case, we already chose that we are citizens.
So the Uganda is just up there.
Up there.
Don't look for it in you.
In you down.
You will get lost. It's not there.
So
it just comes in handy.
I choose my Uganda. Which district?
Soroti.
Let me put Serere. Where from Serere? Serere County. Which part of Serere County? Kiere. I know some people, these are, you should be wondering, is this part in Uganda? Let's assume it is this one here, Kakuja. And then
Kakuja Central.
Kakuja Central. So after I have put where I was born, that information is already there. Income sources. You are asked, do you earn income from employment? You can say yes. Now when you say yes, it opens up an option for attachments, for you to be able to attach what shows that you are an employee. If you have an employee ID, you always put it there. If you have an appointment letter, you always attach it there. So assuming that I'm an employee, I have my ID of employment, I come and say maybe this is my ID number. I come and choose. So when I choose, maybe I just downloaded it a few minutes ago and open. Now, depending, sometimes you might have something that is bigger than 3 MBs. It won't allow. So you must have something that is smaller than that. Let me check if I have something that is smaller than that. Let me hope this one is smaller. No, it is still bigger. So you must have something that is smaller than this. That is the implication. Now back to our income sources. Now that I chose employment, it asks me, is your employer a Ugandan resident? If I say yes, most of us are employed by Ugandan employers. I must enter the TIN here. So assuming...
So that calls for your employer, first of all, should be registered.
Exactly. So your
because
employer
we need
is a
to
TIN.
know whether your employer has a TIN. There is no way they will deduct the pay as you earn.
Without...
And where are they going to take it if they don't have a TIN? Because for starters, as in giving us a return, you should have a TIN. So this form is kind of simplifying, but putting you to task to ensure that everything is in line.
Yes.
Because it even gives you confidence, you, who they are deducting the pay as you earn from.
Yes.
Because if your employer is deducting it here, yes, fine, very good. But if they don't have a TIN, that implies that it does not reach Uganda Revenue Authority.
Very
It
true.
either goes somewhere else, and that is the leakage we want to collect at that. We want to
actually close.
Close at that particular time,
Yes.
so that in the event that you're applying for a TIN, your employer must have gotten a TIN before you.
True.
We don't want to deduct from you and the money disappears wherever it is.
Very true.
It has to be pushed to Uganda Revenue Authority through a pay-as-you-earn return on monthly basis.
Yes. So if I enter my employer's TIN there, let's see, the name will appear here.
And in the event that's a check,
yes,
if your employer gave you a TIN and you put it there, once it doesn't auto-populate the names of the company you are going to work for, then there is a problem.
there is a problem.
You need to ask your employer, but it is not bringing
I don't understand
the
what is
letter on the
happening.
appointment letter. The names on the appointment letter, it gave me something different. So
Yes.
at that time you need to sort it out so that your application is not rejected at the end of the day.
True. The other income source is that of rental. Do you earn income from rental property? Assuming it is a yes, it even gives you the activity here.
In fact, for rented property, we should make some elaboration there.
True.
Rented property has a range. It ranges from you having rented property for residential purposes, you having rental property for commercial purposes. I have my houses and Arthur and colleagues come and rent to sleep there.
Yes.
Or I have some structure, whether small or big, somewhere where people come and rent and do business from there.
Yes.
That is all rented property. I have space that I rent out and a garage rents it to do their business. And the manner in which they are paying me is repetitive in nature.
Yes.
And it's on, say, monthly basis or quarterly or whatever, but there is a document governing what we agreed on. I have space where somebody is renting it out and maybe our agreement is paying me in a repetitive nature for the space. Somebody puts their bricks, sand, and we go and get the sand from there.
Yes.
Or they use it for washing bay, where our cars come and they are cleaned well, but the person who manages the washing bay has an expense of paying me rent because the space is mine, but I avail the space ready for them to use it. So we should know the scope of
rent. So
rental
rent
income.
is just not about
Not only a
houses.
building,
Yes.
exactly, because somebody may be renting out spaces and they say, no, I don't have any building there. But the manner in which they are doing it is the same. They say maybe every month or every 3 months I expect this. I don't mind whether you haven't made anything, but this is what I have said.
Yes.
And once you enter into that contract or agreement, then it is what you're paying will be rental income.
Yes.
And you who they are paying rental income then, at the end of the day, you know you have an obligation to register. Then you start the journey of seeing how you will give us that return depending on the amounts that you will have received for a particular year.
There.
Exactly.
Okay. So that is a clear explanation on rental.
Yes.
So if you are renting out a place where there's a washing bay and you're getting money on a monthly basis, that is rental.
Exactly.
Some people are even renting out places for markets.
Exactly.
And people have put their midala. So that is also rent.
Exactly.
People are renting out places where they are selling sand from. It also is rent.
Yes.
So assuming I am renting a place for a washing bay, to a washing bay. To a washing bay. After I have described, I say submit. So my rental information has been captured. How about business now?
Exactly.
I choose business. I also have business.
That on top of the place you rent out, then you're doing business, say, you come to Kampala, you're somewhere on William Street, or you could be in Shamba Plaza down there selling spare parts for bicycles and motor vehicles and motorcycles. You could be in original Shauri Yako. You're down there trying to sell hardware equipment.
Yes.
Then that is all business. You could be having a saloon. That is all business. So it falls under business income. Because at the end of the day, you will have sourced different kinds of income.
Okay. So, under business, very important to note, enter your business registration number issued by URSP. In the event that I had my BRN and I entered it here, this information here would automatically come.
Because we are integrated or interlinked with Uganda Registration Services Bureau.
Exactly. So now here maybe I have not yet registered I'm assuming I haven't registered my business yet. So I may not be able to fill this in because I haven't registered my business yet. So
yes, you haven't yet registered, but I think what we need to advise clients, fine, you can complete it without putting that there, then probably it may come through an amendment.
Yes.
But it could be prudent, so that you don't need to keep coming back to do an amendment. At least it could be prudent for you to maybe register your business, then have your documents handy with you, the registration certificate, or maybe the company form 20, what was 7, and it's easy for you to fill in. Yes, so that you don't keep coming to amend, yet you can do it once
at a go, really. Because registering a business name is about 24,000 shillings.
Exactly.
So it's much easier that way.
And we even have one-stop shops where we sit with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau and probably KCCA.
Yes.
So maybe our clients can make use of that after COVID, because now we're in the COVID era and we entertain less of the inflow. Exactly. We are basically using the virtual.
Okay.
But at least that can also help us. That can also help them. And maybe even those institutions have the virtual arrangement on their portals in registration.
Apply.
I should imagine they could be there. Then it could be better for you to first do that.
Yes.
So that when you come to fill in this form, everything is input at a go, then complete and submit at once.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then there is this other income called property income. If you say you have property income, here you are. What are they? We have royalties, interest, dividends, annuities, gifts or winning from gaming. So after you've filled in your form, you now come to the purpose of registration. You have already told URA that these are my sources of income. Important to note is that whichever source of income you choose, income tax is automatically chosen for you. Probably the diplomats may not have such scenarios where they choose for them income tax, but for Ugandan citizens, this is usually chosen for you, the income tax.
Maybe we could throw more light why it's like that. This is a taxpayer identification number. It's the number that is meant to identify you on my register.
True.
And if you're qualifying to be a taxpayer, then ultimately I expect a source of income. Because we are not going to tax from the air. We have to wait for you to do business.
To be able to tax.
Exactly, and your business is where you're deriving your source of income. So income tax is kind of by default. That is where the VAT could come in, because you start with you start with having income, then the next thing is looking at the turnover, then probably VAT comes in handy. Then you start with having income, then when you have income, you're in the manufacturing sector. That is how the lead comes in, the local excise duty. You start with having income, then the other sources of income come in, like the rental income tax. It is still income tax, but it's derived from rented property.
Okay. So the other tax heads are reductive. VAT, for example, local excise, gaming, tax, the oil and gas. Because these ones have a particular law that governs them.
Exactly.
There are certain parameters that are needed for you to be able to apply for these. However, these others are left active, like stamp duty.
The reason why they are left active, we give the client a leeway if they have a transaction that falls within that area in which to choose. Because you might have probably an instrument, a stamp duty instrument, that you wish to declare and probably pay stamp duty on it and continue your business. That is when maybe the stamp duty will come in handy. We have the motor vehicle, because you'll find some people applying for teens, and maybe they only need to do a transaction in motor vehicle.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. You will find a sit-home mama. She doesn't have any source of income. Her source of income is tagged to the husband. But there is a vehicle the husband wants to register in her name.
Yes.
Those are people who may choose motor vehicle, because the purpose of getting a tin is entirely for motor vehicle, maybe transfer or registration, and that is it. Then you will see imports and exports. Not everybody imports, but the import may come in handy. Then you select it there.
Yes.
Then your tin is activated for imports in customs. So it just depends on the purpose. That is when probably one can select them.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So in the event that you have now filled in your form, we have now an option to submit the application. Now, submitting the application, we would like you to preview the terms and conditions, such that you don't say that you didn't know what you got into.
Exactly. Terms and conditions, if you could recall in the previous form, we were telling you to print them. And in most cases, you didn't even read them.
Just print and
They were
sign.
about 3 or 4, they were about 6 pages, where it was difficult for one to even read. The fact that they want a tin, the rest will be handled later. So they were just in a completion process. They just print and sign below there. So now we are giving you a leeway to read them from there. You do not need to do any printing. So I think, Arthur, you can go back and you see where
Okay.
we.
So maybe our producer can project the screen.
Exactly.
So when you click on preview terms and conditions, you're given quite a number, about 5 pages.
Those are the ones we were, but I highly doubt whether.
Anybody would read these things.
Exactly, because there were too many. They were just printing and signing down there.
Yes.
Yes.
And
So here
then
you can
say-
just get time and just read through then, probably.
So when you're okay with it, you say, I have read and agree.
So you
To
just
the
tick
terms.
that box.
And then you submit your application. Let me submit my application. Now, usually after submitting, you are given a physical, or rather a PDF with an acknowledgement number
Yes.
that usually eventually goes to the approving authority. Here it is. So
That shows that the system has acknowledged your application.
exactly.
And the acknowledgement number it
Let
gives
me
you
get
just
it.
besides there helps you to follow up.
Let me get it.
In case you're to
for us.
call our contact center, the application has taken quite some time. What they are going to ask you is, do you have the reference?
Which is
So that
here.
reference, that is just beneath there, the reference below the data. You can maybe move the form upwards for them to see the reference exactly. That is KYL.
Charlie Wajala.
Exactly. The reason why our references are in that manner, when he applied and put where he stays Namugongo, we have we have a service office in Chalwajala. So that is the office, the contact office we expect to handle his affairs, and that's the office we expect his application to be channeled to for approval. That is why it has a code KYL. If you give us locations that fall under YSS side, they will have a BW. If you give us contacts that will fall, say, in Central, they'll have CR. That is the Central. So those are just codes to help us identify where exactly this application has to fall or where it went, and that will help us locate probably the officer who is working on it. And if it's not yet worked on, then definitely in a back-end system this side, we'll be able to locate who is seated with it. Then maybe talk to them, then remind them that it's getting a little late for the client. They need to take a decision to either approve or to reject, depending on what you pushed in the application.
Okay.